and today I have a very important update to share with you. We're going to be talking about the report that recently came out having to do with thousands of Americans jailed for debts chased by private collectors, and we're also going to be talking about some other serious laws and acts that were passed behind closed doors, including the most recent executive order signed by Trump. And I'm going to tell you how this relates to the New World Order that's even at the door, because the report from RT says here that an estimated 77 million Americans have a debt that has been transferred to a private collection agency. Thousands have ended up in jail over debts as small as $20, with so-called African Americans and so-called Hispanics the most affected. Do you see what neighborhoods they're targeting? It says here the findings come in a new report by the ACLU, or the American Civil Liberties Union, and we're going to be going to that report in a moment to come, spanning 26 states along with Puerto Rico, and this was just published a few days ago. And of course, this practice violates a ton of U.S. state and federal laws which prohibit the jailing of debtors. But when do they ever follow and practice their own laws? Because last I checked, they have executive orders that are unconstitutional, by the way. But see, they shredded that the moment that it was signed. And then they tell you some of the different cases. We're not going to go over all of this, but the part that I did want to go over and let you know, though, is right here where it says, if you keep going down, it says the report is the first ever to analyze the cooperation between courts and the private debt collection industry across the U.S., according to the ACLU. Private debt collectors use the criminal justice system to try to compel repayments, even when the debts are disputed or when the debtor cannot repay. Even though your government, what do they do? Through the IRS, which is also unconstitutional, that was established back in 1913, what does they do? They print out fake money and create fake debt, because yes, there's no such thing as debt. You do not need to be paying taxes according to your constitution. Oh, but they do not follow that either. But then it goes on to say more than 6,000 debt collection firms operate in the U.S., collecting billions of dollars each year that they print out, just like with your credit cards and debit cards, how it's just numbers on a computer screen. But then it says following their arrest, debtors may remain in jail for several days until they can pay the bail. In some cases, the ACLU found some people were locked up for as long as 2 weeks. And the reason I'm going over this is because how does this relate to the New World Order, and also to some of the laws that were recently passed, enacted, and also introduced to the House? How does this all relate to the coming New World Order? Because soon enough, it's going to be quote unquote lawful and quote unquote legal to place people who are considered quote unquote terrorists in prison. And you're going to see that in just a second. And I'm going to show you and expose to you who your government classifies as so-called terrorists. But here we are at the ACLU report where it says a pound of flesh, the criminalization of private debt. 1 in 3 adults in this country has a debt that has been turned over to a private collection agency. Thousands of debtors are arrested in jail each year because they owe money. Millions more jail. And see, this is the agenda, folks. It's not just going to be with debt. Soon enough, they're going to start coming after people who they have tracked. When it comes to things such as watching television shows or even watching cartoons or movies online for free, they're soon going to come after you for any little thing, find any little excuse that they can to come after you and place you into jail, prison, aka a FEMA camp. They're not going to call it. The only thing they're looking for now and waiting for is their national emergency and to introduce their shadow government to pass all of this through. But then it says the debts owed can be as small as a few dollars and can involve every kind of consumer debt, from medical bills to car payments to student loans. And that's the whole purpose of this, is because they're trying to keep the public and the sleeping people enslaved to debt. Time that we all wake up and see that all money is just paper, and that's all it is. It has the same amount as monopoly dollars. It's no different. But then it says arrests stemming from private debt are devastating communities across the country and amount to a silent financial crisis that, due to long-standing racial and economic inequalities, is disproportionately affecting people of color and low-income communities, because they know what time it really is. But here is the ACLU document itself. Now, the document itself is 97 pages long. We're not going to go over all of it for sake of time, but it says a pound of flesh, the criminalization of private debt. And once again, this was published by the ACLU, or the American Civil Liberties Union. Now, here's the contents that you can find. I'll link this in the description box below if you would like to take a look at this on your own time. But as you can see right here, it goes over the court system, how it's used to send debtors to jail, the role of civil court judges, prosecutors and debt collectors as business partners, a system that breeds coercion and abuse, recommendation, and the debt to jail pipeline. And that's another thing we'll be talking about and focusing on this video, how they all work hand in hand, and how your government and your military and your local police, along with your alphabet soups and those who are at the very top, how they're all teaming and scheming together in order to do what? To place this new world order system in place, the satanic reign. And they're already starting that by passing these draconian laws and these draconian systems. And so they go over some case studies also, and also the abusive practices in the industry. And then they also go over end notes. Now, this is the executive summary, part of which we've already talked about. Now, it's just interesting because the debtors' prisons were originally abolished by Congress in 1833. But when do they ever keep the laws anyway? The answer is never. But like I said, we're only going to go over part of this. But here we are at page 5, where it says how the court system is used to send debtors to jail. When Americans fail to repay financial obligations, creditors usually hire debt collectors to go after the debtors or sell the debts to companies that specialize in collections. More than 6,000 debt collection firms operate in the U.S., collecting billions of dollars each year. And then it goes on to say these collectors flood small claims in other state courts with lawsuits seeking repayment. Millions of collection lawsuits are filed each year in state and local courts that have effectively become collectors' courts. The majority of cases on many state court dockets are debt collection suits, and in many state courts, debt purchasers file more suits than any other type of plaintiff, and they can file hundreds of suits a day, often with little evidence that the alleged debt is actually owed. So do you see how this agenda is leading up to their New World Order draconian 1984 style type of agency? Then it says many courts churn through collection lawsuits with astonishing speed and little scrutiny. Over 95% of debt collection suits end in favor of the collector, usually because alleged debtors do not mount a defense. And in many cases, defendants did not know that they were even being sued. And of course, collectors have little incentive to give proper notice to the defendants. And like I said, you can come take a look at this on your own time if you would like to, but why is this so important and how does this relate to the New World Order system? Because like I said, folks, they're going to try to find any single little reason to place you in prison and to place you in jail, as they're already doing, as they're already starting. They're already introducing and signing laws to these things, and we've already gone over how many times the executive orders when it comes to the FEMA camps and how those are already enacted, ready to go come a national emergency when it takes place, not if. But right now we're here at Congress, and the reason that we're here at the 115th Congress is because we're going to talk about a bill that was recently introduced, which is called H.R. 4918, Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2018. And the reason that we're here is because we're going to be talking more about fusion centers. Now, although this was just introduced recently, this is also going to tie into when we talk about the recent executive order that Trump has actually signed. But it says here to authorize dedicated domestic terrorism offices within the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, more alphabet soups, the DOJ, or the Department of Justice, and the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, to do what? Analyze and monitor domestic terrorist activity and require the federal government to take steps to prevent domestic terrorism. Because who do they consider domestic terrorists? You're going to find out. Because then here's the bill itself, where it says the same thing that we just went over. It says this act may be cited as the quote Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2018. Now, interestingly enough, in Congress's findings in section 2, it says Congress finds the following. following. White supremacists and other right-wing extremists are the most significant domestic terrorism threat facing the U.S., aka anyone who does not agree with the government, aka anyone who is against the New World Order, aka anyone who is against abortion, aka anyone who does not support refugees coming to America and Europe also when it comes to Islamic refugees coming in. Why? Because your government is sneaking them in order to prepare for Sharia law, and they know darn well that's why they have UPS and all those other alphabet soups and FedEx and all those other ones who are sneaking them in, placing them in secret places to be used for Sharia law come national emergencies and come the New World Order, because that is the entire plan to its entirety. And then they go over some more findings that they have here too.
Yeah. That was just a little bit I just wanted to play. Yeah. And I have to tell y'all that yeah, that video from Truth Unveiled, that is nothing but the truth, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of prophetic as to what is going on right now. Trump put in this national emergency in order to get this border wall, you know, in relation to the woman who resigned from Time's Up as the CEO. Her last name is Borders. It's kind of crazy. He actually did another video on that. I think it was yesterday, actually, around this time yesterday. So I probably should play that one too. But yeah, it's just crazy how stuff from last year is related to what is going on now. It's like unless I'm listening to it, it's like, wow, this is like actual prophecy. You know what I'm saying? He's already telling as to what is going to happen this year at this time. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy how that is, you know. But yeah, this is why we gotta pay attention. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that the FEMA camps is going to be the new slavery that all of us is going to go through. And all this white privilege these white folks are having, that's not going to mean anything when martial law and all this crap is going to be taking place. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a matter of time when all of this is going to take place. They already got laws in the books about this stuff, which you just listen through Truth Unveiled that I've recorded on here on this live recording. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just take heed, y'all. Just keep your eyes open and be aware. It's easy for a lot of people to dismiss this, and I know a lot of white people are going to dismiss this. I expect them to, you know what I'm saying? But they're gonna see. They're gonna be in for a rude awakening. They're gonna be shocked out of their minds. They're not gonna know what to do. I wouldn't be surprised if most of these white folks start killing themselves. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I mean, that's the end game. You know what I mean? That's the end game. But we should see. We should see. You know what I'm saying? We definitely should see. So, but that's all I wanted to say. And I appreciate everyone for listening and sharing. But I'm gonna play the rest of this for y'all. And that's gonna be pretty much it. All right. So hold on to your hats. I'm gonna play the rest of this for y'all.
And this can also define anyone who is against gun control, because we know that's part of the New World Order scheme too. They even tell you on their Illuminati card also. That's why they're going to keep staging things such as Sandy hoax and Florida, even though we know the truth about this too. They're going to keep staging these things and then continue to have their problem reaction solution, just as they're doing with Florida. And all of these schools going on protesting gun control because they need your guns, they need your weapons, they want you to be defenseless, so that when the New World Order is enacted, then everyone is completely defenseless and has to give in to their governmental orders, and anyone who does not will be considered a dissident or a quote-unquote domestic terrorist. But in Section 2, they go over findings and reports that have to do with so-called domestic terrorism and the results thereof, even though we know that it's your government who's actually doing it and causing the problems, who are working for your fallen ones, the reptilian shapeshifters behind closed doors, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. But then Section 3, they go over definitions. And then Section 4, they've even established offices to combat domestic terrorism. And this is so important because what are these offices for? The reason that they're being established is for what? For spying purposes. Because now they're looking a domestic terrorism unit and a domestic terrorism office, which says there is authorized the domestic terrorism office and the counterterrorism section of the National Security Division of the Department of Justice, which shall be responsible for investigating and prosecuting incidents of quote-unquote domestic terrorism. What does that mean? Keywords, they're going to be spying on anyone who does not agree with them. That's why they have this 5G technology with these cell phone towers to track your every move, to track to see what you're talking about, to see if you're still asleep to the plans of the New World Order, or to see if they can place your list on a quote unquote domestic terrorism because you know too much about the government. But then it says in B, which shall be headed by the Domestic Terrorism Council. Then they have the domestic terrorism section of the FBI, which is authorized the domestic terrorism section within the counterterrorism division of the FBI, which is responsible for investigating domestic terrorism activity. But your FBI is also responsible for things such as child trafficking, human trafficking, sex trafficking, and drug trafficking. But will they ever be in prison for that? Not right now, at least not until our Messiah Yahusha returns. But then Section 5 goes on to say training to combat domestic terrorism, because they have training. They're getting your military involved to determine who's a domestic terrorist according to them. And who else is involved? The state and local anti-terrorism program funded by the Bureau of Justice Assistance of the Department of Justice. So who are they getting involved with training and resources to assist state, local, and tribal law enforcement officers? They're getting your local police involved. They're getting your local governments and agencies involved. They're getting your cable companies involved. They have your cable companies involved who are out there spying on your every move to see if you're a domestic terrorism. And then what are they going to do? This is very important in Section 6, where it says combating domestic terrorism through Joint Terrorism Task Force and fusion centers. And we've gone over fusion centers and the importance of them and why you need to know about them in previous videos, even back in 2016. But what are they? It says here, the Joint Terrorism Task Force of the FBI and state, local, and regional fusion centers, as established under Section 210 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002, which we're going to be going over as a result of 9/11 inside job. And so what do these fusion centers do? They're a team of centers that collect data on those who they consider domestic terrorists, aka spying on your every move by the No Such Agency, or the NSA, I should say, which is to do what? Share intelligence to address domestic terrorism activities, conduct an annual intelligence-based assessment of domestic terrorism activities in their jurisdictions, and formulate and execute a plan to address and combat domestic terrorism activities in their jurisdictions. You want to know why the police is constantly going over certain neighborhoods all the time? You want to know why the police are strategically placed in so-called low-income neighborhoods? You want to know why they're constantly making rounds around different areas and public places such as schools and everything? You want to know why they're doing that? Because it's all part of the Fusion Centers network and spying programs. Now, before we go over Trump's executive order, I just also wanted to briefly talk about the fusion centers where you can find more about this. You can find more about it in Title 6, Chapter 1, Subchapter 2, Part A, and subsection 124H that talks about the Fusion Center Initiative by the DHS. You can read more about it here. I'll be sure to link it in the description box below. But when did all of this come and establish? After 9/11, along with the TSA, for what? More spying purposes by the problem that was initiated by your government anyway. But here it says right here, which is most important, how they provide analytic and reporting advice to assistance to state, local, and regional fusion centers, review information within the scope of the information sharing environment, including homeland security information, terrorism information, weapons of mass destruction info gathered by state, local, and regional fusion centers, and to incorporate such information as appropriate into the department's own such information, provide management assistance, and also serve as a point of contact to ensure the dissemination of information within the scope of the information sharing environment, including the homeland security information, terrorism information, and weapons of mass destruction information. So in other words, what this means is that not only is your government and your police, your local police force, and all of these different things, along with the military, not only are they teaming up to have fusion centers or places and data centers where they collect information about you based on your cell phone, based on who you're talking to, based on social media platforms such as Facebook and Facebook messengers. Not only are they spying on you even through your computer, but they're then using it and collecting all the information to see if you're a quote unquote dissident and if you're against the New World Order or if you have any knowledge of it. And if you would like to learn more about these fusion centers, you could take a look right here at the DHS website where it says here how they operate as state and major urban area focal points for the receipt, analysis, gathering, and sharing of threat-related info between federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, and private sector partners, who are those private businesses like debt collectors also. You see how they're all in on the scheme? You see how they're all in on the scam? And I'm going to tell you why in just a moment to come. But if you would like to take a look at this to its entirety, it's linked in the description box below. But now we're going to be talking about Executive Order 13823 that was as of last month, actually back on the 30th of 2018, where it says protecting America through lawful detention of terrorists. Let me repeat that. Protecting America through lawful detention of terrorists. Who exactly are they protecting America from? Are they protecting America from truth? Because that's exactly what it sounds like, because this is what Trump actually signed in, and it was published as of the 2nd, so about 3 weeks ago. Consistent with long-standing law of war principles and applicable law, the U.S. may detain certain persons captured in connection with an armed conflict for the duration of said conflict. And we've gone over this and we've talked about the authorization for use of military force, or AUMF, how your government and military now have the legal right to use force and lethal force if necessary when it comes to protecting terrorism for the so-called rights of America. But then they say how the U.S. remains engaged in armed conflict with Al-Qaeda, Taliban, associated forces, and also ISIS, even though your government, and it's been proven how your government funds both of those, how they fund all of this. And it says here the detention operates at the U.S. Naval Station Guantanamo Bay are legal, safe, humane, and conducted consistent with U.S. and international law. And so basically in this report, they talk about how the detention at Guantanamo Bay is legal and that they can continue to allow detention to be there, and that ordering the closure of detention facilities at Guantanamo Bay has been revoked. Why is this so important? Because this is paving the way for FEMA camps, for indefinite detention, for internment resettlement, as we've already gone over. And this section pretty much goes over Guantanamo Bay. But then if you go to section 3, now, while they claim that nothing in this order shall be construed to affect existing law or authorities relating to the detention of U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents of the U.S., or any persons who are captured or arrested in the U.S., see, that's what they're telling you. But again, who do they consider dissidents? And just looking at the title of this, who do they consider terrorists to begin with? I'm going to show you that from an FBI document right now. We've gone over this document in the past before, but this comes from the Department of Justice and your FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'll also be linking the right-wing extremist document that comes from the DHS in the description box also. But when you actually take a look at this, this is Project Megiddo that has to do with certain dissidents that your FBI classifies as dissidents for 2000 and Y2K. Now, of course, while they claim it's for the year 2000, they're actually talking about dissidents who is going to be come the EMP, the stage EMP in America, which is going to be one of the tools that they use to bring about their new world order and a national emergency. And we've gone over documentation for that. But who do they consider to be dissidents? Christian identity, white supremacists, militias, including veterans, black Hebrew Israelites. Do you see all of this so-called apocalyptic cults? If you have belief in the scriptures, if you know about the New World Order, and if you think it's a conspiracy theory, even though George H.W. Bush talked about the New World Order 10 years before 9/11 actually took place,
yes, he did.
Then you are considered a domestic terrorist according to them. And so you see they're trying to use any excuse possible in order to bring about their plans to imprison and enslave the population and depopulate the plane. But we know it's not going to work because we know greater is Yahuwah Yahusha, and now is the time to continue to seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha to be protected from what's to come and to be aware and alert of the world around you and to see exactly the blueprint for what's really going on. But this is Truth Unveiled, saying as always, Shalom.
Yes, he do.
Truth Unveiled here, and today we're going to be going over a ton of stuff. We're going to be decoding the Obama portrait together, and I'm going to be showing you in how...
I don't know that. Yeah. Yes, he do. Yep. Yep. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, brother Chris, she just did a video on about Time's Up. Yeah, about that's right. He just did a video on Time's Up. The CEO, her last name is named Borders. You know what I'm saying? In which Donald Trump is supposedly unleashing a so-called national emergency in order to come up with enough funds so they could build this so-called border wall and what have you. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just everything connects together, and that was a video he did around this time last year, and it's crazy how it's so prophetic, how he just foretold. Yep, that's right. Yep, it's to keep us in. It's not about the Mexicans. You're right. And I wish other people would start to see that. He's what Trump is doing is he's an actor. You know what I'm saying? When you're an actor, you gotta go by a script. And he scripted to say that Mexicans are rapists and murderers and gangsters and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? When the real rapists, gangsters, and murderers are these pale-skinned demons living amongst us. You know what I'm saying? They're the first rapists. They're the first murderers. You know what I'm saying? They're the first gangsters. You know what I mean? Look at how they just came into this country and just took over. They had to kill some people. You know what I'm saying? They had to bribe some people. Yeah, if you can enslave these folks, I'll go ahead and make you part of the family. Yeah, I'll give you certain freedoms and this and that. I'll give you a little bit of land. You know what I mean? So that's what they have been doing, you know? And it's been going on for over 200 years. You know what I'm saying? Plantation slavery lasted for like 100 and, I don't know, since the country founded all the way to around slavery. Probably not like almost 200 years or something like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah, that's right. $5 Indians. Yup. And how that came to be, and I'm sure y'all know this too, for those of y'all who are listening, is that these white folks, these pale skinned demons, they some of them went ahead with the government and told them that they're Native American or that they're Indian, and they had to bribe someone for $5 in order to put it on the census that they are Native American or Indian. So in order to see certain funding, you know what I'm saying, so they could go to college and all other types of special amenities. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's pretty much how that works. You know what I'm saying? That's how Elizabeth Warren became a $5 Indian because of her great grandfather, I believe it was. You know what I'm saying? He did that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I know it's a great thing when all these lies are being exposed. You know what I mean? And these pale skinned demons are getting scared. You know what I mean? And the ones who don't know what's going on, they're gonna be in for a rude awakening when they finally know what goes on. But it's gonna be too late for them. Yeah, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately. Yeah, and that's the thing. We our people got to start waking up. You know what I'm saying? Our people definitely got to start waking up. Oh, yeah, that was my fault there. My bad. Yeah. This is another one I want to play too. It's going to be exactly what I just talked about. Hold on.
An update to share with you. It has to do with times up and also some prophetic significance that's taking place within America. But today I'm here at Essence, and this says here, President Lisa Borders stepped down because of sexual assault
This was the one I was talking about.
Son.
Yeah.
Now, of course, with Hollywood, we have to, of course, use discernment at all times.
I had to find this video.
But the reason this is so important is because there is a message here. And what is the message? Because this happened as of today, accordingly. Now, what? Time's up is the very first thing, as we've talked about and are going to go over again. What? We see this word once again, president, and when you know what it unscrambles to, then you understand why it's so significant. But also pay careful attention to the last name Borders, because we're going to be talking about that and its significance in a moment to come, so you can see that this is what elite Illuminati messaging and predictive programming. Now again, attention to the timing, how this was announced as of today, and it's important with this stuff to read between the lines, because while they're going to tell you that, oh, time's up has to do with sexual assault and standing up to it and everything, well, is that really what it's about, or is there a message behind all of this? Because according to Wikipedia, what they're going to tell you is that it's a movement against sexual harassment and was founded as of 2018 by Hollywood celebrities in response to the Weinstein effect and hashtag #MeToo. Now, as of December, it raised more than $22 million for its legal defense fund and gathered nearly 800 volunteer lawyers. And recently, the CEO has decided to step down. As of today, actually, that's when the announcement was really made and publicized. And when I share with you some other things, you will see why this is very interesting and suspicious indeed.
Hollywood, where several stars are promising a blackout on the red carpet at tonight's Golden Globe, promising a blackout. Good morning, America's Lara Spencer reporting tonight from the red carpet.
Tonight on the Golden Globes red carpet, all eyes not on who the stars are wearing, but what color they're wearing. Nominees expected to dress all in black as a show of solidarity to fight sexual harassment and inequality. Time's up on this imbalance of power that makes space for abuse and discrimination. Time's up. More than 300 of entertainment's biggest names signed an open letter saying, time's up, in response to the string of sexual assault allegations that have industry this year, ignited by dozens of accusations against film mogul Harvey Weinstein. Some of those stars, Reese Witherspoon, Kerry Washington, and others, posting this video on Twitter. Encouraging women watching at home to wear black as well. Encouraging women watching at home to wear black as well. Encouraging women watching at home to wear black as well. Using the hashtag, #WhyWeWearBlack. Why can't I just make the eggs? The stars of Lady Bird, Laurie Metcalf, and Saoirse Ronan, both nominated for their performance, speaking out.
I think it's the right time, the right place. The momentum is building. I think it's the right time, the right place. I think it's the right time, the right place.
It's a total message of solidarity, support, community.
And other nominees answering the call, like Mudbound's Mary J. Blige.
Standing with the women that are standing up for other women.
And I, Tanya's Allison Janney.
I will be able to be in a black dress and be proud.
8 actresses will be bringing activists with them on the red carpet tonight to further the conversation.
If you'll remember from the Golden Globes, they actually wore the Time's Up ribbons and the bracelets at the 2018 one where they first debuted them, but then they also wore them where? At this year's past show last month for 2019 as well. But that's not the only thing. Now, this was this year's Golden Globes for 2019. Here's Andy Samberg wearing it, where it says, actresses wore all black to the Golden Globes in solidarity and support of the Time's Up movement. But who are they really? Because then it says Hollywood is continuing to stand behind the cause by wearing black and white ribbons and bracelets reading Time to pay careful attention to that. Time's Up ×2. What do you think that's telling you? What do you think they're trying to allude to you and put right in front of you? Because if you keep going right here, you'll see on this article here that what Natalie Portman, Jessica Chastain, Octavia Spencer, and America Ferrera in all black dresses at the 2019 Golden Globes. Now, we talked about why this is so significant and important, that what they're wearing all black. Time's Up. When you wear all black, what does that represent? What is that really showing you? What? It's an allusion to what? A funeral. The funeral, the death of America is what they're preparing for. That's why they're telling you that time's up. And when you carefully take a look at these celebrities, you'll start to see some things and notice some things, like, for example, Natalie Portman, something isn't right. Now, of course, for the sleeping public, what they want you to think is that, oh, this is just a great year of the movement. It has to look back on the organization's progress thus far, calling to double the number of women in leadership positions across all industries and things like that. And while they might all and good and dandy, the reality is this, folks. There is a sinister message behind it. There is something bigger going on. And not only that, there's something prophetic about it. And by the way, Hollywood, we know that they're involved with what? All types of demonic rituals like blood drinking, poop eating, and other disgusting things that they have to do. Offerings and demonic sacrifices that a lot of your celebrities have had to do in order to get to the positions that they've had to get to. Because if you think that they just got there with hard work and dedication and talent and time and things like that, it's time to think again. And also, if you still really think that there's nothing under the sun that's happening and taking place and that this is not prophetic, it's also time to think again and reconsider, because I'm telling you, it's what? Time's up ×2. Now they told you not once, but twice exactly what time it really is. And what time is it for America specifically? Well, Judgment Time, because here we are talking about what? The supermoons as well. And in fact, there was already another one that passed. But in case you're new to all of this, there have been 3 supermoons reported in 2019. The first one was as of January of 2019, which was also a super blood moon. And we're going to talk more about that. Second one was a few days ago, and the third and final one is supposed to be next month, and we're going to talk about why the next one is very important and prophetic. So you will see that the third and final one is going to fall on the equinox, or March 2019 equinox, where it's a full supermoon. Now, if you actually take a look at it, you'll see that what? As it showcases the third and final full moon supermoon of 2019. So there have been 3 in a row. And what's very interesting about this also is that your elite are not really reporting on this.
And on top of that, this happened on Black History Month.
But they're not really reporting.
February, the shortest month of the year, with the gematria of 42.
And why that's so significant. Because just a few days ago, there was also this one. There was the year's biggest supermoon, and this was as of the 19th.
Justin has a gematria of 42.
And if you saw it, you'll see that it was the biggest one out of all of them. And then back in January of 2019, so last month, which was the first one, this was the Great Total Lunar Eclipse, or also known as the Blood Moon 2019. Now, not only was it known as a blood moon, it was also a supermoon. Now, it's very interesting how it also occurred as of January 20th through the 21st, 2019, also known as MLK Day. Why is that so very important? Because it's a prophetic warning letting you know exactly what time is. And for those of you who are new to this network, please take a look at some of our videos that are linked in the description box below that talk and showcase more about why 2019 is such a prophetic year, and also the 400-year prophecy according to Genesis chapter 15 verses 13 through 14 and Acts chapter 7 verses 6 through 7, and how it is applicable to America, specifically when it comes to the beginning of slavery in 1619 in America specifically. And as we've gone over before as well, the 4 years, we also see it with Congress, because even your government has acknowledged it with HR 1242, which was a bill that became law and was signed by Trump as of when? As of 2018, because it became law around the same time as when? As the Golden Globes. Time's up. Wow, very interesting and suspicious indeed. The only nation to really sign it into law. Why do you think that's the case? What do you think they're trying to tell you? Do you see the prophetic significance of all of this? Now, again, the purpose of this network is to also give you the truth and prophetic significance of the world that we live in and that we're currently in. Now, if you've been watching some of the videos before and previously, the ones that we've linked in the description box below, then you would know that we've already gone over why it's so significant that there is a full moon on the vernal equinox, and why that day is so prophetic actually, and what it represents. Because, like we shared in our other video, in simpler terms, the year of the first Exodus occurred in the year with the full moon occurring on the 1st of Abib, or the beginning of the year, also known as month 1 or day 1. And like I said, if you would like to learn more about that, please take a look at our hour-long documentary video that is linked in the description box that will cover and go over more of this. Because again, nothing new is under the sun. And so out of the 3 supermoons, 2 of them have already passed, 2 of them have already taken place. Now there's only 1 more to go. And then according to the ancient Enoch calendar, as of the year 2019 through 2020, the very first day of the year, because the years begin in the spring and not on January 1st, you will see that according to the scriptural new year, it will be when? On March 20th, 2019. That will be the 1st of Abib, or the very first day of the year, the beginning of the new year, and it will be a full moon in America specifically, just like the year of the first Exodus. Wow. And just as we shared with you last week, once again, we'll go over the Exodus references, because there was not 1, but 2 of them within the past month. Again, whether or not it takes place this year, after that, because scripturally speaking, there will be a greater exodus to come. According to Yashayahu, or Isaiah chapter 11, this is a fact that there is going to be a greater exodus. Once again, we have to see the signs ahead of time.
That's
but
right.
Remember how we told you to keep that last name in mind. Borders right here, Lisa Borders.
That's
time's up. Borders president, because what recently happened as well? In our report last week, we covered the significance about Trump declaring a national emergency. But this was to do what? To build the border Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
No surprise or coincidence that what? The exact same time as this with Lisa Borders and Time's Up that what? Democrats plan House vote on measure to stop Trump's declaration of emergency at the border. You see how all of this is connected and tied together? And again, note how
Yes.
this came what? Today on a Friday?
Hmm.
And also, if you would like to learn more about the national emergency and why it's so very important when it comes to America specifically, please take a look at our report video that was done on it, linked in the description box below as of last week. Now, in last week's report, we also covered the very importance of
Yep.
Exodus
I
and how
believe
we
that
see
too.
that in many different places. Now, the first place we covered was
Yeah, I
what?
do definitely think
Metro
he's cloned.
Exodus. And this video
Most
game was
definitely.
released last week, last Friday, actually, the same day that the national emergency was declared for America by Trump. And then we also noted the subliminal predictive programming when it came to the Metro Exodus, how what? It shows train tracks right here, and it also talks about metro like a metro city, and snow, record cold is what it's really alluding to, just like with what? Chicago and the cold. How they had to also keep what? Rail crews are using fire to keep the trains going during the polar vortex a couple of weeks ago. So you see that what? It is a direct message. And then also we have the USA Today cover. Now again, pay careful attention. We've gone over this before, but what? Black History Month. This was the special edition for what? 2019. You see the word Exodus right here. You see how they have baggages right here, ready to go, ready to leave, ready to depart, ready to go home. But the question is, are you? Or is this just mere coincidence? Or is there still doubts in your heart about the word of our Creator and what it says pertaining to the 400 years? You see the words 400 years right there? Don't his word Exodus right there, just like with Metro Exodus. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, because I'm telling you, what is this trying to show you? Nothing new is under the sun. What happened before is going to happen again. Well, what happened in the first Egypt after the enslavement of the real scriptural people who are the so-called Negroes, the so-called African Americans who've been scattered throughout the four corners, and anybody else who fits all of the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. Well, just like they were enslaved in the first Egypt, what happened? There were the 10 plagues and then came the Exodus. Will something happen like that similar? At first, I was not going to share this, but now I will, because you need to see and understand the prophetic significance of all of this and exactly what time we're in the days that we're living in. Because the next full moon is going to be when? Going to be the kickoff starting point of the 400 years, some very prophetic times. What I'm about to share with you now, we've gone over chapter 32 before in a previous video of the apocalypse of Abraham, but now we're going to go over chapter 30, because as we've also gone over that what? Nothing new is under the sun. And according to 2nd Esdras chapter 15 verses 10 through 12, again, these are books that were taken out of scripture. Why? Because they don't want you knowing this stuff. But that will tell you that what? Plagues will be brought on Egypt as before. The Egypt that it's talking about is America. Well, what are the plagues? Well, let's see, because we're in chapter 30 and it says, and while he was still speaking, I, Abraham, found myself on the earth, and I said, Eternal Mighty One, I am no longer in the esteem in which I was above, and all that my Napash or beings desire to understand in my heart, I do not understand. And he said to me, I will explain to you the things sought to know, the 10 plagues which I have prepared against the heathen, and I prepared them beforehand in the passing of the 12 hours on earth. Hear what I tell you, it will be thus: the first, sorrow for much need; the second, fiery conflagrations for the cities; the third, destruction, pestilence among the cattle; the fourth, famine of the world of their generation; the fifth, among the rulers, destruction by earthquake and the sword. The sword represents war. The sixth, increase of hail and snow. Could that explain also what these polar vortexes in this winter do? The seventh, wild beasts will be their grave. The eighth, pestilence and hunger will change their destruction. The ninth, execution, flight and distress. The 10th, thunder, voices, and destroying earthquakes. If you don't think that this is coming to America, it's time to think again. and to repent by turning to Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha and praying that we are what? Worthy to escape all of these things and to also be counted worthy to stand before the son of Adam and also to be counted worthy and also able to be saved and protected when all of this takes place. Because just like with the first Egypt and just like with the first Exodus, the real children of Yasharal, they were protected. So the question is, when we're keeping his commandments in the Amunah belief of Yahusha, will we be protected also? Because we know we have nothing to fear. This is Truth Unveiled here, saying as always, Shalom.